Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Christopher back with a new video on my YouTube channel. It's in English, unlike some of my previous videos, which were in Norwegian. And maybe I'll make more Norwegian videos on this channel later. Even the YouTube channel name is in Norwegian. So I haven't made videos on this channel for a little while now. I've been working on other things, trying to learn more, but I thought of uploading a brief video just talking a little bit about a certain section or field within philosophy called phenomenology. So, phenomenology, I don't think it's part of the classical sections or subsections within philosophy because you have categories like metaphysics, ethics, epistemology, ethics, and just to briefly go through them. So, metaphysics, that is the study of the fundamental structure of reality. For example, what is the world or reality ultimately made of? Are there substances? What is being? Is there a God? What is God? Cause and effect, things of that sort. That's metaphysics. It's beyond the physical, it transcends the physical. That's why it's called metaphysics. So, for example, the discussion over is there an argument that proves the existence of God? That's a metaphysical question. Epistemology, that is the study of how we get to know things. How do I gain knowledge? How do I know what I know? How can I have certainty of my beliefs? That's epistemology. Ethics, that's the study of morality, what is right, what is wrong, morally speaking. And those are very important features of philosophy. You can also go into philosophy of history, which is what have philosophers talked about over time, throughout history. Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, St. Thomas Aquinas and Augustine, Immanuel Kant, etc., etc. What have these important philosophers talked about? How have their ideas impacted later philosophy, etc.? So, yeah, philosophy of history. There's also philosophy of science. How should we understand science, the scientific method, and so forth. And phenomenology is another one of these philosophical fields that is much more modern. At least it appears to be very modern. And basically, what it's about is understanding the world as phenomenon. So, phenomenology rejects metaphysics. Like I said, metaphysics, that's the study of the world in its fundamental components, or what is reality made of? Is there a God? What is causality? What is out there? And so forth, ultimately. That is metaphysics. Phenomenology says, nope, we don't look at metaphysics. We look at the world simply as phenomena or phenomenon that we perceive. It's perceiving the world insofar as it's an object we can see, we are conscious of. And that's basically what phenomenology is about. And it's not understanding objects purely as a physical, concrete, scientific thing that we can scientifically investigate. It's about how does the world or how does a thing appear to me. So, for example, when I look at a chair, a scientist will look at the chair as a certain entity with certain dimensions, made of a certain kind of material. He might look at the chemical components of the chair, etc., or a tree or a rabbit, whatever. But a phenomenologist would look at the chair and think of it as a phenomenon that we perceive. It is something out there, or there is something that we see, that we're conscious of, which gives us a certain impression, something about its color, something about its function. When we see a chair, we might see it as something on which we are supposed to sit, or something we're going to sit on, rather than focusing on its intrinsic scientific components or parts. So that's phenomenology. Now, I would then say that phenomenology, its rejection of metaphysics, is wrong, because the world is something out there that we can see and learn about through our senses and then our reason. So we see a tree, we see an elephant, we see water, we see the ocean, a house, a human being, etc. And these are entities or things out there that we see with our senses, and then we use our reason to learn more about them. So, for example, we know about the nature of a tree by looking at many different particular trees. We see their similar features, that they share things in common, similar traits, and from that we can abstract from particular trees to the nature of a tree or the form of a tree. That is the traditional philosophical way of understanding how we know the world that goes back to Aristotle. And I would say that is the right way of understanding reality, rather than thinking of it as purely an object through which of which we're conscious. So yeah, it's true that we can talk about how a thing appears to us, how a thing has a function for us, but it shouldn't go at the expense of metaphysics at the very least. Metaphysics is necessary. We can learn about the world, and we can, for example, learn about whether there is a God out there through arguments, as I talked about in earlier in previous videos, including one video with Amos Zweig, that Swiss YouTuber I had video collaboration project with in the past. We talked about the existence of God. So those were just some initial thoughts I wanted to share on philosophy, metaphysics, and phenomenology. So I hope that could be of value. And yeah, if you watched the whole video through, then thank you very much, and feel free to subscribe to this channel.